Uh, Perhaps you know a woman who repeatedly starts new relationships or repeatedly goes on first dates or repeatedly goes on second dates and then there's no third date. You know someone like that. And there's got to be a story or a meaning making that has to go that we humans are great at meaning making. So that could also be our story. We're like, that's happening because I'm too much, because they're not worthy, because I'm too tall or too short or too wide or too ugly or too aggressive or too wealthy, too funny. Maybe I laugh out loud too much. Maybe I drink too much. There's some pattern that happens where we, at first, we're like, oh, yeah, we're seeing this happen and this happen and this happen repeatedly. And then our mind says, oh, honey, we gotta fill in the gap. We gotta make sense of why this is happening. And most of the time, it probably sounds something like there's something wrong with me, and or there's something wrong with everybody else. It has nothing to do with me. But we fill in that gap, and it can be a very dangerous gap, or it can be rather juicy. So, hi. Hello. Welcome to the sixth episode of No Skimpy Costume Required. This is the case of the stories we tell ourselves. And I'm Murphy and responsible for Shiro Rising. And I'm eventually going to tell you a lot more about that, getting very excited about the plans ahead. Because in this world, we need more Shiros. And that's what this is about. No skimpy costume required means you don't have to be a size 2 to be a super Shiro. That's what I call them. So this podcast is for women who are moving from this place of feeling like wasted space on the planet and secretly suspecting they have much more to offer to becoming the Shiro of her own story. And there's some really cool things happening in the world as I focus on that I'd love to share. So let's jump into the trenches, because sometimes that really just helps make the point. I, once upon a time, if you can believe this, I'm a very powerful writer. I love that about me. I intend to keep that and continue to grow that and expand it. It doesn't always work so well in the corporate environment where we're supposed to, you will know my opinion of this, act like we have no feelings, and that it's very, very sterile, right? Very clean. A friend of mine told me that she was even sort of reprimanded for putting humor in her email. And he was like, oh my goodness. Okay. At what point do we stop sanitizing humans? That's a whole nother episode, right? It's a whole nother conversation. So in this situation, I was frustrated and I sent out an email to the person with whom I was frustrated. And I said, hey, this is what's going on. And we had a back and forth about it. And the person took responsibility. I wasn't making it up. The person took responsibility. And in the end, I said, because their take was, well, I want to do more. Will you help me do more? And I was like, yeah. Unless you keep doing this thing that I need you to not do. And in which case, then I would invite you to not be on the team. And that was not, she understood. We had rapport. we've worked together for a long time, so she understood. I mean, I understand what she was saying. She took responsibility for what she did, and we move forward. However, that conversation ended up being known by leadership in my department. And they were not too thrilled about it. And here's the thing, I had written at least two other emails that they took issue with. So this time they're like, nope, you can't do that, and there's going to be some disciplinary action and blah, 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 or whatever. And I will tell you honestly that I went on the defensive. If you would have, so be it. Because I did feel like, wow, they there was no conversation. It was just they were judge, jury, and executioner right there. And there was no opportunity for me to be a part of the decisions about what happened, and what would happen. So I wasn't able to articulate that to them. And my my defense went up, and I thought, wow, this is why I don't trust people, because they don't trust me. I didn't even get the benefit of the doubt to have a conversation first. The person that received it wasn't half as irritated as the leadership was. And one of the people that I had an exchange with was the CFO, someone I had respected. And the response I got was, this seems to be a pattern. And I thought, well, that's really interesting phrasing. Because for me, I did not see it as a pattern of saying, the pattern to me was not saying things in email or anywhere else that people would be upset about. I didn't see that. So I had enough respect for this person. I took some of a pause and I said, okay, well, what am I missing here? Because I don't just go around making people mad or sending out upsetting emails or emails that upset people. So what else is going on here? And what's the nature of that? So first there was the activation, and I'll tell you, it hurt. It was we I do this piece where no woman is an island. I felt like an island. I felt like I was persona non grata, and I mean, I could even go to tears. I'm like, I'm going to be fired for this. And I had to get a bit of a grip because I was also extraordinarily anxious, and it took me days to calm down. So it was a physical response, is what I'm saying, as well as a mental and emotional response. And it was like, oh my goodness, things are up in arm. So while I'm in my trench trying to sort this out, I did get curious. Curiosity is my favorite thing. Some people don't like curious people, but I said, well, what does this mean? It's a pattern. And if it's a pattern, what part of it is mine? Because one of the things in getting curious I realized is there's other humans out there in the world that are doing things that they're being activated by whatever. Once upon a time, I had a manager tell me about her manager at a time when she worked in a bank, and it was most appropriate to wear skirts and nylons and high heels. And her pet peeve was anyone having scuff marks on their heels. And for me, the absurdity of that, because that could happen at any moment during the day. And for me, that was likely happening all day long. I would have been constantly having to clean or change my shoes. So I pulled that story forward and I said, okay, if it's a pattern and this is to do with humans, and humans are complicated and complex, I do other things that might make people crazy, and I do a lot of other things that make people happy. But for whatever reason, this particular thing about the writing is stuck in their craw. And I am one that said, even a social worker I talked to said it could be that because it happened the same time of the year. It could have to do with some trauma that's happening at the same time of the year that issues it. But I find these folks have a lot of work to do. This is the thing we want to land on that's a problem. And let me be clear. I took responsibility. I wrote the email. I apologized to the woman because if it caused her upset, that was not the intention. So I took responsibility for that. So I'm not saying I had no fault here. I'm just saying, what's the rest of the story, right? So I said, all right, if I evaluate this and I say, okay, what's my part in this trench? I I don't want to be a bad person. I didn't want to be excommunicated or thrown off the island, which is what I've really felt was going to happen. I felt that I was stripped of my being. And I had also been listening that week to The Power of Us, the book, The Power of Us, on Oprah's podcast. And the man was talking about how, why is it when something negative happens, we get, ugh, and even though we've done 1,000 things right, that one thing gets stuck in our craw. And his explanation was he's a research scientist, I believe, was that when we were first here on this earth, primitive, if there was a snake over in the corner, well, under a tree, we needed to remember that so that we could be safe. And so there's this activation that happens and it stays lit in the back of the brain so that we don't forget. I think that could be true. Because one of the things was I got coaching on this email thing before. And since I love to write, it was like, okay, no big deal. Let me work on this. And I learned to use AI. And I really felt like I sent out probably 100 emails in the last year that were really well received and very helpful. So to be thrown under the bus and rolled over a couple times for one email without any conversation, I felt abandoned. So I said, all right, then what part of this is mine to manage? Okay. And part of what I did, I said, okay, I have a role here. I am not excommunicated from the island. I might be excommunicated from that island. And okay. And I said, all right, I'm going to take, what can I do? I did a couple things. What can I do to reduce the likelihood of that happening again? So I did some research and found some more statements. And one of them was, before sending an email, to say to myself, hey, and are you feeling overwhelmed? Are you feeling anxious? Is there some energy around it, would be my phrasing. And if so, this might not be the time to read it. One of the fabulous questions the director asked me was, if there was another person, say the director or the assistant director or the manager on the email copied, would I have said the same thing? And I don't know. My guess is I would have changed the language, but maybe still said the same thing. But I don't want to, I'm not want to shy away from that because I think that's a really great question for me to reflect on. So then I'm like, okay, it's a pattern, according to them. Because I'll tell you honestly, I like my I am perfect image of me. So this was hurtful. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm not perfect. Somebody, and people know, which was worse. Um, yeah, that's the other this feeling of feeling stripped bare. It's like, oh my God, people can see that I'm a mean, rotten, awful person. A mean, rotten, and awful person. And part of it is, I don't know what happens in your head, but in my head, there's a conversation. All right, you're not really mean, rotten, and awful. You've done these other things that are really good, but you did this thing. And how to manage all of that together. And also, I had received emails from people that were curt, but I didn't complain about them. And the other part for me that was tough is if they had an issue, why didn't they come to me directly? But those two people didn't, the people who I sent the emails to. And that's when I just started realizing, getting curious, what I can control. I can control what I write. I mean, I can make a commitment to what I want to do in the future. I have not promised anyone I won't send another alarming email. And I haven't because it's a um it's a soft spot for me, right? So I don't want to lie and say I will never do that again because I can't guarantee it. It comes out of nowhere, I get activated and I've sent it out. But I am certainly willing to take the steps that they've outlined that I could take, having a conversation with someone, not putting it in writing at all, and go from there. So um, I'm willing to do those things and doing those things and being aware. And it's a balance thing because part of me is glad I did it because we got better performance from the person. I feel justified. And what I think is sometimes people don't get it until you smack them upside the head. I can do that. Is that how I want to show up all the time consistently and be known for? Probably not. But um it is a complex situation and getting curious. So here's the skill that I'm inviting you into this week as a shiro, because it it can't be that we go back in our turtle shell every time someone recognizes that we're human and we make a mistake. And if I was going to get fired, I was going to get fired. And I have such great faith in the universe and that, I am so loved and supported from that bigger picture. I was like, well, if that happens, we'll deal with it. I've had that happen before. And I will survive it. So I got back into my reasoning mind, got back into my body because the crazy crap was running rampant. And so this week, I'm giving you for your mobile phone booth, okay? Mobile phone booth is right that concept of when Superman's out in the world and he needs to go off and save the world. He looks around for a phone booth, goes in there, puts in his leotard, and comes out. Okay, for you, Shiro, I want it to be mobile. Okay, it's just around you. It takes 30 seconds. Um, you don't have to explain anything to anyone. And we're going to talk more with my Shiro profile. That's going to be exciting that you're going to create so that you know when and where to do it. For this one, when getting activated, get curious. When we get activated, let's get curious. Let's reframe. Now, can we take a few minutes to be pissed off? Yeah, we can, absolutely. Because I don't want to, we're not going to deny how we're feeling. We got all the feels. I mean, I got through embarrassment, humiliation, feeling exiled, feeling unworthy, feeling righteous, feeling heroic. I, I, I suggest to you, this is all very natural part of being human. So that's what we're going to do. So I want you to keep that tool around to get curious. Look at the action that you took. Ask yourself, what story am I telling myself about this? Do you love how I keep losing my hair? Where did that story come from? Is it a story that started in childhood? And you're like, oh, yeah. So I currently have a mess in my living room. My nephew would call it hoarding. I'm going to call it a mess. And I can remember when I was a kid, especially like in second grade, third grade, I would go to school and then come back home and my room would be all cleaned up and the toys were in bags and moved and all this and the box stuff. And my mother would call my room prior to that a junk shop. And I feel like I live in a junk shop. But somebody always came and cleaned it up. So my mother's passed, God bless her soul. And she is probably, if she, she was like, oh my gosh. Anyway, um, I'm working on cleaning up my current junk shop. So I've paid attention to where the stories come from. And is it true, or am I just protecting myself? Is it true that I've sent some emails that have upset people? Yes. Is it true that I'm mean, rotten, and awful? Mm-mm. I'm a lot of things. I mean, I can be, but I'm not. All right. So now your quest, when you choose to accept it, because we're not going to give you an option here, is to identify one story you're telling yourself. One. One story. I don't want to, because otherwise it gets to be we're picking ourselves apart and there's this and that and the other. I want one story, not figure out all your patterns, just one story that you're telling yourself. And that's actionable, right? That you can take action on, that you can get curious about and figure out what's one place you're judging first, that you're making the judgment first. Yeah, you with me? Fabulous. I very excited about what we're doing here. My intention as we go along is to continue to offer these trainings based on the Shiro formula. Shiro, S, first, spark alignment. You got to know who you are, how you are, what you are, and be in alignment with that to be a Shiro. And it's in service to something bigger than yourself. It's in service to something larger than yourself. This is not about making money. I mean, it may make money, but it's not about making money or making you pretty or something along that side. It's the S, which probably goes this way. The H is about honing the behaviors. What are the behaviors that will support and guide and lift up being in alignment? You know what some of them are. And then how do we start integrating them? Not perfectly, but continually. Because we're not trying, there's no perfection in being a Shiro. Shiros get it wrong often. O. O is about owning joy. And that's a big one for me. Celebrating. And I think we just don't do that. I know we just don't do that enough. R, raising power. Women are most powerful, most successful, most able to implement in group. So we work with other women. And then O, look at me. O is own the mission. You would think I can't spell Shiro. The third letter is actually E. Empower joy. The fifth letter is O. Own your mission. Whatever it is, you work through and create this profile, this being, this one who is committed to something larger than oneself in a variety of ways and knows that it is always imperfect. It is never perfect. And that at the end of the rainbow doesn't happen. We're just going to keep doing this and keep doing this and keep doing this and for the rest of our lives. So be on the lookout. I have a Shiro profile course that I'm going to be offering, and I will probably go back and put the link in here. It launches on August 15th, and it's going to be pretty fab, very fab, quite fab. All right, so that is the case of the story we were telling ourselves. That's episode 6 of the No Skimpy Costume Required podcast. I'm Murphy. Go be her. Shiro, go be her. Game on. Take flight. I see you back here next time.